Hello students. Uh, in continuity of orbit, now we have left with the thyroid ophthalmopathy and few inflammatory conditions of the orbit. So let's go for thyroid ophthalmopathy today. We know the thyroid is one of the important the structure in our body which produces the hormones T3, T4. So imbalance in the thyroid production, so it affects systematically all over the body. Okay, and the thyroid ophthalmopathy, it's a self-limiting autoimmune process, but as it causes the irreversible changes in the eye that affects to the sight, and which may be sight threatening also. The patient may permanently lose the eye. Okay, so we call it as a Graves disease also, Graves disease. So the proptosis is different and thyroid ophthalmopathy is totally different. Okay, the proptosis which is caused by thyroid, we call it as a Graves disease. It can be associated with the other inflammatory conditions of thyroid called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, thyroid carcinoma, primary hyperthyroidism, or the neck irradiation. So, when we compare with the male and the female, yes, it is more common in the females compared to the male, and more common over 50 years of age. And in cigarette smokers, it is found to be more. So, if we halt cigarette smoking, we can avoid to some extent. This is regarding some epidemiology. So what exactly happens in case of thyroid hormone? So what happens? These thyroid hormones go and acts on thyroid receptors of the soft tissues of the orbit, especially the fat as well as the muscles, and brings about the swelling, the accumulation of glycosaminoglycans into the tissues, and that imbibes the water and leads to the swelling and the that is proliferation of tissue. Okay. So there are the various symptoms you can see in the picture. The patient may start with the diplopia. There can be visual loss. There can be field loss in terms of vision. There can be bulging of eyes or the puffiness of the lids, and there can be photophobia, ocular pressure pain, lacrimation, and sometimes there can be dyschromatopsia. So again, in percentage wise, the signs have been given. Amongst everything, the lid retraction is the most common, and followed by the proptosis. There can be a restriction of the eyelid movements, that we call it the restrictive myopathy, because of the swelling of the muscles. And because of increased pressure, there can be increase the volume of the eyeball. There can be pressure to your optic nerve that leads to neuropathy. So how the lid retraction seen. So ideally what happens, the upper cornea is covered by your lid about 2 millimeter. Even the lower lid touches the just margin of your cornea. So whenever there is a scleral show, so we can make out this could be some abnormality. We can suspect it can be thyroid ophthalmopathy. So the first sign will be the lid retraction, because of there is sympathetic stimulation of this Muller muscle by this thyroid hormone. So that causes the overaction and lid retraction of this muscle, as well as to some extent lever muscle is also gets contracted. So there will be proptosis. Proptosis is forward protrusion of the eyeball. So it starts with unilaterally and we go for bilateral. So it is due to the enlargement of these extraocular muscles, as well as the swelling of this adipose tissue and the fat, and as well as the infiltration of the orbital tissue with glycosaminoglycan leukocytes. So when you see from the side, there are various methods to measure the proptosis. So one is the lid retraction is there, and from the side view, when you see, the eyeball appears to be bulged forward, and patient is unable to close the lids, and that leads to further complications of severe exposure to corneal ulceration. So how can you differentiate between the real proptosis and the pseudo? There are these different causes for the pseudoproptosis. So these are some causes like high myopia, congenital glaucoma, ipsilateral retraction, and contralateral anastomosis and orbit. Then what is this restrictive myopathy is? As I told you, there will be inflammation and the swelling of the muscles of the orbit. So that causes the difficulty in the movements of the eye, that we call it the restricted movements. So patient may have the muscle wise, initially the inferior rectus is involved, then medial rectus, then superior rectus, then lateral rectus. This is how ideally the involvement of the muscles are. So that causes difficulty in movement of the eyeball. So there are some signs for thyroid ophthalmopathy. Different scientists name has been given. For example, for Joffrey's sign, that is, normally we have a crescents over the forehead on superior gaze. So there will be absent of such kind of creases. We call it as a Joffrey's sign. Poacher's sign, that is a starey appearance. Normally, even though the patient is seeing normally, because of the lid retraction, patient looks very scary and very staring appearance. That we call it as a Poacher's sign. And Vigor's sign, that is because of swelling of, in some patients, excess amount of the fatty tissue, the swelling leads to the eyelid fullness. Then Rosenbach sign is patient will have the tremors of the eyelids whenever the patient is asked to move up. Then Trisman sign is some sort of brood over the eyelids. And Von Graff's, which is we call it as a very common, that is lid lag on a down gaze. We can see in the picture where the other normal eye, when the patient is looking downward, it follows the eyeball, but not in case of the thyroid ophthalmopathy. It is because of the overaction of this Muller muscle and levator palpebrae muscle. Then Dahl-Rimpel sign. It is also a lid retraction. Then Stellwag sign is incomplete and infrequent blinking of the, because as the patient is unable to close the lids, definitely the frequency of blinking is also reduced. Then Boston sign, jerky movements of the eyelids on the down gaze. Then Jelinek sign, abnormal pigmentation of the upper lid and even the lower lid. Griffith sign is difficulty in everting of the. Normally, whenever we want to examine the upper lid, we can revert the eyelid. Because of this edema and the thinness of the lids, we can't revert the eyelids, so we call it as sign. Then Endroth sign, edema of the lower lid. So these are some of the signs. Werner's classification. Werner classification, you have to remember in the mnemonics like no specs. So class 0 is no signs or the symptoms. Class 1, that is 0. Class 1, only signs, that is lid retraction or the staring of the lids or the lid lag will be present. And class 2 is soft tissue involvement. S for the soft tissue involvement. Then P, that is class 3 for the proptosis. E, class 4, that is extraocular muscle involvement. Then class 5 is C, that is corneal involvement. And S, that is the last one, class 6, loss of sight because of optic nerve involvement. Just I want to stop in between. So there may not be the involvement of this the tissues, as I told you, like no specs also. There can be the haphazard involvement may be there. Okay. So there are scores are there. We call it as a clinical activity score. Then this is the chart we follow. Then the next one is visa classification is there. This is all. Then you go classification, that is European group on Graves or Phytopathy. These are all for the follow-up and the classification, as well as the mode of treatment for the patients. Okay. Now coming to the treatment part, there are various steps for the treatment of the thyroid ophthalmopathy. There is a supportive care is there is a systemic steroids are there, then you have a radiation treatment is there, and finally is the surgery. In surgery, there are various methods. One is orbital decompression, then strabismus surgery, and eyelid surgery. So what is orbital decompression? I'll let you know further. Okay, as I told you, depending upon those scores, the mode of treatment varies. If the classification score that is less than 3, then you can go for the local measures and the observation. If it is more than 4, then you have to go for the IV steroids, radiation, and immunosuppressant. If it is inactive, then there is you have to go for the orbital decompression. That is the okay. What are the supportive measures? Supportive measures, because as eye is retracted, proposed anteriorly, and eye is not closed properly, it leads to the dryness of the eye. So you have to properly lubricate the eye on and often. So you have to use a lubricant eye vigorously. And the second one is you can go for the adrenergic blocking agents with a 5% of glunethidine sulfate. So after injection it improves the lid retraction, but it is not a permanent one because it has its own side effects on redness and the pain. Then otherwise, while sleeping, the patient can go for the taping of the lids. He can close, then go for the taping. So to some extent of the cornea is saved because of dryness. And when there is a photophobia, patient can go for the dark glasses. So diplopia is double vision. So depending upon the number of muscles involved, the particular gaze, the patient may have a double vision. So initial stage you can go for the prisms you can use, that is Fresnel press on prisms. Near around the 30 prism diopter of the deviation can be managed, or you can go for the monocular fogging or closing of the one eye. Then medical management, the role of corticosteroid is very important in case of the Graves ophthalmopathy, because as it is inflammatory conditions, the inflammation has to be reduced with the steroids. You can start orally with 60 to 900 milligram of the dexamethasone or methylprednisolone you can use. Then, but you have to keep it in mind of side effects. It leads to the weight gain, osteoporosis, blood sugar elevation, and hypertension, and sleep disturbances. Gastritis will be there, glaucoma and cataracts. These are some side effects of this medical. But you have to taper over the period of the time. You can't keep the high dose for the longer period of time. Then orbital radiopathy. Yes, patient who have this active eye disease with the progression, so the radiation can be given about 2000 rads to the each orbit. Then per day 200 is given in 10 sittings, so 2000 is given. By that some sort of inflammation is reduced. The final stage is your surgical management, because as now it has crossed the stage of the reduction of the inflammation. Now we have to make a room for this the swollen tissues by decompression of your orbit. So as the decompression of the particular wall is increased, the size of the decompression is also reduced. By this, the orbital fat decompression, excess amount of the orbital fat can be reduced, and by walls also. By this, so whenever there is a threat to the vision, when there is optic neuropathy is there, so it is the indication for orbital decompression. And whenever there is a corneal ulcer, whenever there is subluxation of the globe, so these are some indication for the orbital decompression. Every surgery has its own merits and demerits. You have to keep it in mind, then you have to proceed for your surgery. Okay, so there are various routes for the decompression. It can be endoscopic, it can be transcaruncular, it can be transconjunctival, transfrontal. There are the various procedures for the decompressions are there. So one wall decompression leads to the 0.4 millimeter reduction in the proptosis. If two walls are removed, yes, it is 7 millimeter up to. If three walls